Some amputees are calling for an independent inquiry into the government's artificial limb service, which they say mistreated them and caused long-lasting physical damage and pain. The New Zealand Artificial Limb Service has long been the only place where amputees are referred to for treatment, either by district health boards or ACC. But after years of suffering, some amputees have refused to continue with the service and say they have a new lease on life after receiving treatment elsewhere. But as Michelle Cook found out, it's been a long road to get there.
I was told that no one else could fit a limb for you. You had to get on with NZALS because there was no one else, and that was from surgeons.
Jan Hansen thought she'd recover from the amputation, be fitted with an artificial limb, and get back to life as usual, almost like nothing had changed. But it's never been the same.
I was limited, incredibly limited. I gave up golf. Couldn't play golf, couldn't stand long enough to go and do your shopping. You couldn't do that because you'd walk into a shop and you'd be okay, and then, hello, your leg was too sore and you couldn't get back to your car. That's a horrible feeling.
She visited the New Zealand Artificial Limb Service on a regular basis for adjustments to be made, but it was never a comfortable fit.
I had no skin on my stump and I was trying to work. I mean, that's like walking on a blistered heel, but a lot worse because you've got all your weight on that prosthetic. And so and I said to him, what can you do to stop this happening? And this after 9.5 years. And he looked at me and he shrugged his shoulders like this and he goes, I don't know what to do.
Diane Smith also lived in pain. One day, she was walking along the street when her artificial leg fell off.
The limb service in their wisdom decided to make my limbs smaller. But unfortunately, my stump is about 23, 24 centimetres and they had me in a 19 centimetre liner and socket, which then sucked the life out of me, caused me massive problems. I had high blood pressure. I was getting hematomas, then one of them exploded. I got septicemia.
That was her aha moment. Enough was enough, she told ACC. She would not be treated there any longer and demanded they find another provider.
I do all sorts that I couldn't do before, yeah. But it's like a lot of amputees, there's a lot of other injuries that happen as a consequence of the ill-fitting limbs. And I've got stuffed shoulders. Others have had other major falls, like broken arms, other legs broken, and so there's all sorts of things when a limb doesn't fit properly.
ACC now pays for her to fly to Wellington and be treated by a private provider, and it does the same for others. She used to have to go to NZALS every 2 weeks for adjustments, but now only travels to Wellington about once a year. Amputees Checkpoint has spoken to throughout the country say they have lived in pain and were never comfortable under NZALS. They feel the service didn't take their complaints seriously and that their calls for an inquiry to the former government were ignored. We put their concerns to Sean Gray, the CEO of NZALS.
I fully appreciate that our patients are in really complex situations and it's going to be very difficult for us to please everybody all of the time. Not that that's an excuse, and if people are struggling and frustrated, reach out to us.
Mr. Gray says while all prosthetists are qualified or have experience to meet the industry recognition, there is no qualification offered in New Zealand for technicians who make the limbs, and it is industry standard that they largely train on the job.
One of the key things about having part of our workforce working for a self-regulated profession is to make sure that we have the checks and balance in place.
That includes training and development, rewards for good work and attending conferences here and overseas. ACC says its only contract for prosthetics is with NZALS, but it plans to open it to tender early next year after several clients refuse to work with the service. Mr. Gray says he's not afraid of competition and in some cases refers his own clients to external providers, including 15 in the past year alone. So why would the government provider be referring clients to an external provider? Is it because they have the expertise his staff do not?
No, they're aligned expertise within what we would look.
So what's the difference?
This is not an exact science in the fields of prosthetics and orthotics. Every patient is different, and so we need to understand that, and we also know that taking different health professionals with different views and different opinions may be a good thing.
He stresses that the service, which cares for more than 4,000 amputees, now has an external company conducting surveys which return about a 90% satisfaction rate. A better complaints process is one of the things he has learned from Jan Hansen, a former nurse who ran major health facilities. But Jan Hansen still thinks more needs to be done. The West Auckland woman has now been under the care of an external provider for about 3 years. If you're watching, you'll see the difference in her limbs. The NZALS limb is much shorter than her new one.
He draws your body on a piece of brown paper, you know, and he knows exactly, and he puts all the measurements. It was amazing to go through that. That had never happened for me. Never ever happened. Cast made, on goes the leg and off you go.
And how does it feel?
It just was like a glove, you know, fitted absolutely perfect.
That was Michelle Cook reporting.